Welcome back to another episode of Artist to Artist presented by Artist Republic. I am Christian, and again, it's just me. Sorry, guys. Please remember to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Like always, we're just going to get right into it. So, going viral with over 500,000 views in under 3 days, Honey has captured the hearts of fans both domestically and internationally with her unparalleled powerhouse vocals. She balances a successful YouTube channel of 3.5 million views with numerous live performances, including Madison Square Garden, the XL Energy Center, and the Nassau Colosseum. Her infectious personality and insane vocal talent has been recognized globally by celebrities including Zendaya, Hunter Hayes, and James Franco. Honey's been a busy bee over the last year, writing and recording a lineup of fresh new music. A few months after the pandemic hit, Honey's struggle with addiction had taken a positive turn when she decided to get sober. While in recovery, Honey spent time writing and focusing on the 8 dimensions of wellness, in which she was able to process her emotions and dig deeper into the root of her pain and past trauma. Honey's new music takes us on her journey of recovery and showcases extreme emotional depth with songs like Oh Lord and Sleeping Ugly. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
My name is Honey Ribar, and I was born and raised in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities. And I, let's see, how did I start singing? I was around 4 years old when I first saw the musical Annie. It was a movie, and I loved the theme song of Annie, Tomorrow. And I learned that song in like a day. I watched her sing the song over and over and over, and I started copying her and doing what she would do. And I just loved doing it. And one day my mom came in and she's like, "You've got a really good voice." And I didn't really understand that. I mean, I just knew I liked to sing. But that was kind of my grasp of it. I just knew I enjoyed it. And when I went to kindergarten, we had this little kindergarten talent show, and the principal was walking by, and I had chosen, of course, to sing the song Tomorrow from Annie for the talent show. And he walked by and heard me singing, apparently, which I didn't know about. And after I was done, the talent show had finished, and he called me to his office. And mind you, I got in trouble a few times because I had a little crush on a boy and was chasing him around the playground and stuff. So I'm like, oh no, I'm getting in trouble again. But he called me in and he was like, "I heard you sing for your talent show." He's like, "How would you like to sing for the entire elementary school?" And mind you, this is like an elementary school of 700 kids. So I was kind of nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, like for all these people, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Cause I was this person who wanted to jump into anything and wanted to tackle anything and try anything. I'm a very adventurous spirit from very young to this day today. And so I sang for the talent show, and I haven't stopped singing ever since. That feeling I got the very first time I ever sang on a stage is the exact same feeling I get to this very day. I grew up doing theater my entire life. I was in every show, sometimes multiple shows at one time. I did community theater. I did a lot of demo work growing up, and then just a lot of contests and stuff. And then I decided to go to school. I flew out and went to school out in New York. I attended NYU, Tisch School of the Arts program, and I decided to go for theater because I wanted to enhance my dancing abilities and my acting abilities, but also fortify my singing capabilities. So I went, really honed in on those 3 focuses. And after I graduated, had traveled the country, had done multiple shows with different theater companies. And during this time, it was like I graduated a year early from school. So it was kind of like my junior year, whatever you want to call it, my 3rd year, my final year. I started a YouTube channel, and I recorded this a cappella cover of Beyonce's Love on Top, and the VMAs aired, and that's when she had announced her pregnancy. And I don't know how it happened, but I woke up the next day after I recorded that song, put it on YouTube, and got like 500,000 views in a few days. And I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know anything about tagging at the time or anything because I was so new to it, but it just happened so quick. And suddenly I was getting asked to do a bunch of contests online and stuff like that. So I had done BuzzFeed stuff. I eventually did this Ryan Seacrest contest where I was sought out for my Katy Perry cover. And one of the gentlemen who worked with Ryan's team reached out to me and was like, are you interested in doing your own music, like your own original stuff? Because he's like, you're a singer. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm in the theater world and stuff right now. And he's like, are you loving it? And I'm like, no, to be honest, I'm not. I feel like I'm kind of having to mold who I am to become, to fit the type of character that I'm going in for. And it would get frustrating because I had struggled all my life with eating disorders. So it would fluctuate from going up in weight to going back down in weight. And it would fluctuate all the time. And it became very discouraging for me because I felt like every time I wanted a certain role, I'd have to get back down to a certain size. So it was kind of a mind screw. And I don't know. So I was like kind of over the theater thing. And I'm like, maybe music solely. I mean, that's always been my number one thing anyway. Maybe that's just what I need to go into. I just never thought of recorded music in that sense because I just done theater. So his name was Michael Murray, the gentleman who worked on Ryan's team, and he and I had a chat on the phone. I was actually out here filming a show for MTV at the time, and he and I had a talk, and he's like, I think you should move out here and you should record with this person I know. He's absolutely incredible. He's super talented. He's a producer, and you get to have all your own original music and all your own content. So I thought, successful YouTube channel, I had done theater, I had kind of whatever. So I wanted to move on to like the next thing. So I decided to move out here, which I did. And in 5 days, I recorded and wrote my EP, which we wrote that back in like 2014. It was released 2015, 2016. So like a year and a half later. And then I took a break and had just performed and stuff around the area for a while. And during all this time, lots of struggles and stuff, but regardless, music throughout all of it. And now I'm back again recording new stuff since COVID's kind of released and or lifted a little bit, but now we're getting all these different strains. So this is weird. But yeah, so I'm back making music literally here in LA. And but that's kind of where the music journey has been.
It's quite a story. Yeah.
Sorry, that's a lot.
No, it's great. It's great. And I think for the people listening, particularly, like it's such a unique story that you don't hear a lot. I don't think we've ever actually sat and met with somebody who started in the theater and kind of moved their way up through that realm of things. Speaking of Tisch, I applied to Tisch for their film program and I didn't get it. So that sucks.
Well, they're lost. So
yeah, they're lost. I came out here instead and did it. So that was cool.
There you go. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Missed out.
No, that's great. And I guess my leading question off of that is, how do you feel like your experience in that realm, the theater realm, kind of prepared you for being where you're at today as an artist?
Wow, what a wonderful question. I will tell you, growing up, I was a very sensitive kid. I took on a lot of people's emotions, and I think that's why I loved theater so much, because it was kind of like, it was therapy to me to be able to escape all the things that I was taking on in my own life and be able to put that into a character, whether it was, the saddest to sad characters or the most joyful characters. And so that was kind of like therapy for me and a great outlet. Um, and as far as like the actual prep for just the world in general, going to NYU, the teachers, they were extremely honest and critical and very blunt and to the point. And I loved that because I needed to figure out how to build a backbone for myself and take criticisms and use them to my advantage rather than be like, that person who knows it all or thinks they're the best. And that's the thing. I feel like there's always a way to get better and there's always ways to improve and to learn and to get even more involved and to dive deeper. And I think going to school and studying theater, just having those coaches and those teachers there to be honest and teach me how to utilize that criticism rather than make it lessen me or make me feel less. I think that was extremely helpful because now in this industry, when I get criticized or praised, either one, I just don't let it teeter me. I take it, and if I feel that it's really truly something that I'm like, oh, I need to apply that. Absolutely. I don't take anything personally, so I think that was a really good way to kind of transition me in from one world to the other in a way.
Sure. And I think that's a big thing for artists, is that criticism factor.
Oh,
When you're an artist, you're putting yourself, your emotions out there for the world to see. And if you don't know how to properly accept, or maybe not accept isn't the right word necessarily, but if you don't know how to handle criticism, it's gonna
absolutely.
it's gonna hamper, is that the right word? Whatever. Hamper your career.
Yeah.
Is that the
Yes,
right word?
absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah. It'll like temper with your brain a little bit. And you might be discouraged and then fall off because be like, oh, I don't, I'm not good enough or I'm not this enough. Instead of having that mindset that I'm not good enough or I'm not this enough, it's nice to be like, no, this is valuable information, and it's just a way to make me even better at what I'm doing, So that was extremely helpful.
Yeah, and in my experience, being in the film side of the world, constructive criticism is like the backbone of any creative process. Like, yeah, you might have some really great ideas, you might have some really great music, and when you go to share it initially with a test group, you're going to get criticism, and you have to be able to take that constructively to build upon what you've already created.
Absolutely. And I always think I'm a person who I do this not only because I love it, but because I really want to make a difference. So if people have things that they want to give to me or want to throw my way, I'm always receptive to it. I might not agree with it and I might not see eye to eye, but always, always open to hearing people's ideas, people's thoughts, people's critiques, criticisms, any of that stuff. So, and I think that's a great way to learn too. And I love to learn.
It's a great way to learn. And, like, sure, maybe you don't agree necessarily with somebody's criticism, but maybe if you try it out and you put it into
Absolutely.
practice and it works, then it's like, okay, maybe I do agree with you. I just didn't because I was stuck in my own ego.
100%. That's the biggest thing about all of it, I think, is it like you go into school thinking, I came out of my class in my high school like being the top of this, or I got all the A's, or I was the lead in every show, or I, was the top soccer player, or whatever you were. You are kind of humbled by your experience once you go out into the real world and like become introduced to new people and you're like, wow, I didn't even realize what else is out there. And then going
Yeah.
to New York, like going from Minnesota to New York, like what a jump.
Right.
And to see the talent, it was like, ooh, like this is good. And I mean, I love a healthy competition. So it's like, it was like a motivation for me just to get better. It wasn't like, oh, she's getting all the parts. It was like, oh, she's getting the parts, but she's getting these parts because she's doing this. So maybe I need to do that too, you know?
Yeah.
So all
It's
good learning.
it's like every step in someone's life takes you, like, you might be the top at by the end of every step, but then you get to that next step, you're at the bottom of the barrel
Mm-hmm.
again. Um, and I mean, that's just true for any industry, I think.
So true.
It's quite a fascinating concept when you really think about it.
I know. I love it.
So you mentioned a little bit about these competitions, right, with Ryan Seacrest. In your bio, you mentioned BuzzFeed. I'm kind of curious about that, and was that a way for you to get noticed as an artist, and how successful was that?
Yes. So I know everybody grew up with American Idol in my generation. I mean, every generation back in 2000 was watching American Idol, Kelly Clarkson, all that stuff. So that was my first plan of attack, was to get on one of those shows. And when I had gotten kind of the when the outcome came from the Love on Top video, more people had started kind of reaching out to me, being like, hey, do you want to come audition for American Idol? And then eventually The Voice came, and like, you want to audition for The Voice? And I'd go in for all these casting calls. And eventually I'd get to the points where another year would come around and they would just have me automatically on their list of people to call into the rooms. And a lot of that was because of these contests online. They would see these and they'd be like, oh, that girl, we should put her ahead of the cattle call line and she can go right to this point in the audition process rather than going through the first three. But then you look at those contracts and you're like, I don't know if I want to do that, because here I just moved my whole life out here to do all this, and then to have it all taken away from me. It didn't, something didn't feel right about it, to be honest. And no, not discrediting the shows. The shows are so great and they've helped so many people in their careers. So all wonderful things. Just in my realm, it wasn't a thing at the time. It didn't feel right. And so yeah, so that was more kind of my way to do it, was to do these online contests, because everyone was seeing them, BuzzFeed and Ryan Seacrest. And now it's social media. If you can get someone who's really big to retweet you or share your story on their stories on Instagram, like that's kind of like the solid spot now. But those contests, especially in like 2011, 2012, 2013, they were kind of, yeah, making things happen for me. So any way I could get in, I would definitely do it.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the playing field has kind of changed a little bit with the advent of social media, and just kind of the way that the world is going in terms of the internet and how we all connect on various apps, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok.
I know.
But TikTok in particular is one that has gotten very big, very fast over the last like year and a half, 2 years. And, you have some notable people on there. The one that comes right off the top is Lil Nas. That's really where he blew
Mm-hmm.
up. And now you starting to see more artists blow up from TikTok. And,
I know.
it's such a crazy shift, I would say. And I guess I'm curious, like for you, coming from that competition side of blowing up, what is it like seeing these younger people blow up on TikTok and all these other social apps?
Honestly, I'm a person who celebrates other people's wins. I'm not a
Yeah.
person who's like, oh, she got noticed. I'm like, that's awesome. Like we're finding new ways to find talent out there that's undiscovered. And I love that, because I can't stand it when I go somewhere and I see a guy sing or a chick sing and they're amazing. And then I'll go on their socials and they have like 500 followers. I'm like, how are you this talented and you don't have the following that someone of your talent would have? And they just might not have like the skill set to know this is the tag to use, this is the time to post, this is the type of content to post for your audience. Millennials are posting this more kind of stuff, Gen X posts this stuff. So I think it's hard because it's all truly a game. It's all analytics, it's all timing, it's a strategy. And it's kind of, I think it's just refreshing to be able to pop on your phone, take a video of you singing a song, and you get a record deal. I think I love that. I don't
Yeah.
feel like, yeah. I mean, just because you're not skilled necessarily in social media doesn't mean that your actual talent should be discredited. So when people are found, I I love that. I mean, I'm like, hey, I want to. You tell me how to do that. So,
Right.
but you know
It's
so
almost
yeah, I'm like,
like,
how teach me.
right, teach me. Like if I can do it, like I'll be more than happy to. And
Right.
that's something that we talk about quite often on this podcast is like the marketing aspect of being an independent artist. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's so crucial nowadays, especially with how saturated the market has become, for the individual to kind of, at least at a bare minimum, understand organic social media marketing. And is that something that you've kind of dipped your toes into?
Oh, that's I love that you just asked me this question. So I'm a person who I always need to be doing something unless I'm like, no, I can't. I need
Yeah,
my time to just still myself.
Zen.
But I zen it out. Exactly. I
Yeah.
just need to breathe it out. Yeah. Um, but I work, so this is funny. I didn't go to school for marketing advertisement, but somehow because of my social media following, I think that kind of showed the company that I'm currently working for as my day job, that I have clout in some way. And they trusted me. And I'm so grateful that they did because during COVID, we really needed help with socials. And I stepped up. I was like, you need someone to do your social media. I'm pretty good at it. But I can always learn more. So I feel like this would be a nice learning opportunity for me, but also like a great opportunity for you so that, we can get more content out for the company.
Yeah.
So during COVID, I really got to dig in to learning Photoshop, learning InDesign, learning Final Cut Pro, Premiere. So all of the editing tools that I needed to create the content that I do, I haven't mastered it, but I'm learning it a
Yeah.
lot, like learning lots more about it. And then on top of that, having to pull like analytical reports and stuff like that, I learned through like when the best times to post are. So by doing research for my company, I'm also gaining insight and knowledge to my own personal career as well, which has been very helpful. So always learning.
Always learning. And I think that's something to be said for, excuse me, a lot of artists who are just getting into it. If you have a day
Yeah.
job and that day job needs help with their social media, man, learn that shit. Like learn it and learn it well,
Yes.
because that's only going to benefit you as the artist.
100%. I'm like, if I can find a way to dig in deeper and make this more become a part of my lifestyle, maybe I won't hate it so much because
Right.
I can't. Social media is just so fake. It's like, let's pose and show that we're having a great time, even though 10 minutes ago I was crying about my breakup. It's like put the pain out there too. The organic stuff is, I mean, it's been a huge shift for me because a lot of my stuff in the past was very just posted to post it. And now I feel like with everything I put out there, there's just a lot more thought behind it and it's more honest. And I feel like people connect with me more, which is ultimately my goal as an artist. Sometimes you have to reevaluate why you're doing what you're doing. And sometimes the love of it just isn't enough. You need something more. And for me, I love to sing, but even more, I love people. I love to connect with people. So I feel like the best way to connect with people is just to be honest. So I feel like my journey when it comes to social media from way back when to now has changed just taking down the white picket fence image and just making it a little more organic,
Yeah, make it genuine. I think and I would say artists, brands, like any company or artist, I'm going to kind of target as more the artists, clearly, because we're on a podcast about artists. It's important to be genuine in your branding. People tend to, like you said, white picket fence it and make things seem so great and so wonderful all the time, when the human experience simply is not the case.
Yeah.
It's social media, though. It's still
Well, and
relatively new.
I know. And the thing is I know people like love to hype stuff up, and I'm all about that, especially if it's like really for something that you're like just working towards and going after. But so many people like to hype things up, and it's like, I mean, I used to do that. I used to be like, oh, this happened. And it really wasn't that big of a deal. But I wanted to make myself seem important and relevant. So I put it out there, and it's like, no, now a lot of the stuff I do is way cooler than some of the stuff I was doing back then. But it's like, I don't need to post about every little thing I'm doing in my life, and the things that really do matter. That's the stuff I want to post about. So I don't know, just, I think authenticity, especially in this day and age, is just so important, for everyone.
It's such a great word, authenticity.
Yeah.
It's a great word. Well, while we're kind of on the topic of taking down those white picket fences, I know that you really wanted to kind of spread a little bit about your story and kind of your struggles, and talk about how you got yourself out of it. So I would love to just talk to you about that and see where we go from there.
Sure. I love it. Yeah. So I growing up in entertainment and having this perception of what you want to be from a very young age, 4 years old, 5 years old, like, so, I mean, you don't even know really what life is yet at 4 or 5 years old. And yet right away, like, that feeling to know that I wanted to perform and sing, that was just something that came so young. So having a grip on something like that my entire existence, it's like I identified as that. If I wasn't on all the time, then I felt like anytime I was off, that's when someone would see me. And then that's when I would be like discredited for all the hard work I'd been been putting into my career. So I would always be put on, and it got kind of draining and exhausting. And, we grew up in our families, and there are a lot of things that happen way before we're even born. Abuse is a thing. Eating disorders are things, these things are passed on from generation to generation. And, we just take on some of the things that family does and friends do and the people who surround us do. So I think I was taking on a lot. And body image was always a thing for me. I found that the people who were thinner got the leads in movies and in Broadway shows. And I felt like in order to be the lead in all the shows, I needed to be a certain size, and granted, when you're eating healthy and you're working out, you feel good. So I'm not discrediting that. But there was a point when I started going from this is good, this is healthy, to this is not good, and this is very, very unhealthy. And I would start to fluctuate in my weight. So behavioral wellness was something, what is it? Behavioral illness, I guess. But anyway, it was always a struggle for me, the eating thing on and off. And then when I was around, that was like the thing that I clung to, I think. It was always the eating. Again, whether it was too much, too little. I was a binger and a purger. There became a point where I became addicted to laxatives. And this struggle happened like all throughout like my middle teens through my 20s. And it's even been something that I still struggle with and have sought help for. And but one thing can lead to another. And throughout college, I was never a drinker, never a smoker, didn't do anything. The only thing that I felt like I needed to control was my weight. But when I lost control of that, it's kind of like the next thing came and the next thing came. And there were so many life events that had happened to me, family members, friends, stuff like that, that it started to take its toll on me. And me always being put on and always happy and trying to stay thin so that I could be in all these roles because I was living out in New York, it took its toll on me. And I started smoking and used that as a way to escape my problems and as my vice. And eventually I moved out to LA and I just craved connection so badly because after I graduated college, I had traveled around the country and done these shows and made friends with these groups of people, but then it stopped after the show was done. So it's like I never really had a solid group. I had my boyfriend at the time, I had my brother, but that was kind of it. So I didn't really know what else to do or who else to go to or any of that. And therapy was never a thing that was discussed in my family growing up. And me, I'm an actress, so it's easy for me to be like, oh, I'm fine. No, I'm just exercising. I feel good. It's easy to put that facade on when you want to get what you want. And anybody will tell you, any addict will tell you that manipulation is kind of the number one thing in an addict's life. Any way to get what they want for that release is what they will do. And eventually I developed a really, really bad relationship with alcohol when I moved out to LA. I had developed this group of friends who also drank and they drank and I would go out and drink with them and stuff. But it got to a point where I wouldn't stop. I would go out and I'd black out and I'd wake up in places where I'm like, how did I get here? Or in situations where I was just like, not well. I'd have to go to work hungover. I would do drugs. It was awful. And I couldn't find a way to stop. And I had gone through a breakup and we had been together for like 10, 11 years. So I kind of had like a midlife crisis and didn't know what to do. So I just sunk deeper into my addiction. I ended up moving back to Minnesota from Los Angeles, thinking that at least if I had a home base and people that loved me, that I would get better automatically. And I sunk even deeper because I felt like the people who loved me and supported me more than anything were starting to actually despise me, even though they weren't. They just saw that I was struggling and they wanted to help me. And, it's hard to see someone you care about go down to the deep end, So things got worse when I actually moved out to Minnesota. And I'd gotten in trouble and things had happened to me that just took parts of my life away, in the sense that like I didn't even know who I was anymore. I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, I don't like who I see. I don't know who this person is. And eventually, my whole family was like, you've got a really bad problem and we don't know how to help you because you don't want the help. And eventually, COVID came and I, for about 2 months, sunk really, really deep, was drinking during work because everyone was working remotely. So I was one hosting happy hours and I drink during the day and I black out by 5 o'clock at night and wake up the next morning at 8 in the morning and not know what happened. And I just had I had a few really bad experiences in the very end, and got to the point where I went to my mother and was like, I need help. I don't know what to do. And she was like, I'm going to help you. And my mom, dad, brother, and I ended up going to see a therapist, and she ended up diagnosing me with PTSD from my childhood, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I got referred to an outpatient clinic. I had the choice to go to inpatient or outpatient, but I wanted to keep my job because I love my job so much and I love the people there. And it was the first time I'd had a job where I felt truly like supported and loved. And I ended up choosing to go to outpatient therapy. We did 3 nights a week on the computer for 3 hours a night. And one of those nights was Friday. So it helped me from like going over to friends and drinking or going to the liquor store and getting alcohol and drinking and stuff. So I got sober. I went, the woman who actually gave me my analysis said to me to go 3 months without using anything. And me, of course, being my bargaining self, was like, can I just have, can I smoke weed for my anxiety and stuff? And she's like, no. She's like, 3 months without anything. And if you feel anxiety and you feel whatever, like we can revisit that when we get to those 3 months. Just try 3 months without anything. And I went 3 months. I decided to have my last hurrah on the 4th of July in 2020. And July 5th was my first day of my sobriety. And I haven't drank since. And those 3 months went by and it's like a light had come on inside of my entire being, inside my head, inside my heart. And it's like I began to like see life again. It's like my eyes were opened to who I actually was again. And I could look at myself in the mirror and not hate what I was looking at. And now it's been a year. And every day I feel better. And every day I'm just so grateful because I sit and think of all the situations that I was in where I easily could have died or something real, like even worse than what happened could have happened. So it's relieving. And I'm so grateful that I went through all the stuff that I did because I wouldn't be probably sober today if I hadn't. So that's kind of where I'm at on my journey as an artist and sobriety right now.
Well, congratulations on your sobriety. I think that's incredible.
Thanks.
It's great.
And not to say that like anybody who drinks and stuff or does what they do, like I don't diminish anybody for what they do. It's just a me thing. I'm not a person who can stop. And so that's my problem. And that's
Sure.
with a lot of things in life. So if people are out there drinking and stuff and they can control it, that's one other thing, but I'm just not a person who can. So I'm like, I gotta stay away from it.
Yeah, to each their
Just
own.
had to throw that in there because some people are like, oh, she's not cool because she doesn't like go out and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, trust me, I still go out and everybody still has a great time and I have a great time. It's just, it's like not drinking soda. It's like I go out and I don't drink soda. I drink tea or something. So
yeah, it's just it's a management thing, I think, for some people.
100%. And if I can't control it, I just need to cut it out completely,
Sure. Yeah, and that's something to be said just about, just to be cautious for like a younger artist when they're entering this industry. I think it is really easy to slip into certain habits that you as an individual might not want to be in. And it's something to just continuously to be mindful about as an artist and to just make sure that, if you do feel like there is a problem starting to occur, you should figure out a way to stop that, get help, do what you need to do to make sure that you don't fall down. I don't know like the proper term, but like, like the bad rabbit hole.
Yeah. Going down the rabbit hole is definitely a term that we used, but I think it's also just a matter of like identifying when you're doing what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
are you like, I know for me, I was using it as a way to like cover up how I was feeling because I would be sad all the time because I went through this breakup and it broke my heart, so I didn't want to feel the pain and I didn't want to feel the rejection and I didn't want to feel all the things that I had worked so hard to try to like rise above, so instead of feeling it, I would turn to numbing it. And I think that's like the biggest thing I can say is if you notice that you're trying to like numb yourself or you're trying to or feel more, because some people, when they do things, they feel even more. So whether it's that high of high or that low of lows, I think it's just good to check in and see like when we're feeling those urges, and to listen to our bodies and to accept how we're feeling and allow ourselves to work through the things that are hard, because as artists, we feel a lot, and some of us put it into music, some of us put it into our acting, some of us put it into dance, whatever it may be. I mean, us as singers and musicians and artists, we put it into our music, but it's like, I wasn't even putting it into the music. I mean, I was putting it into music, but it's like, I wanted to mask everything and just not feel any of it. But it's such a great way to make better music and connect even more with people, because everybody's got pain, and if someone else knows that someone else has pain, it's kind of nice to connect and be like, oh, you're going through that too. Oh, me too, and instead of feeling like you're alone in the world going through it by yourself, so I think it's just good to acknowledge those things and be mindful.
I think so too. I agree with you 120%.
Yes.
Honey, we are like right at the end of our time frame for this episode, but I do want to ask one more question, and that is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that might be listening to this right now?
God, there's so many things I'd
There's
say,
so
but
many
probably
things.
that last thing that I
Yeah.
know, because there's so many
Yeah.
things. Honestly, it's probably what I just said, and it's gonna sound cliche, but really, just if you're going through the thick of it, whether it's a positive thick of it, you're on a high, or again, in going down in the dumps, like, give yourself the grace to feel what you feel. I had so much guilt that I had to learn to forgive myself for, and like so many things that I had done to friends and to people I loved. And I had to sit in that guilt for 3, 4 months until I cried it out and punched pillows and yelled and screamed in the shower and allowed those things to come out. Because the more you do it, the better you're going to become at it. It's like anything. The more you practice singing, chances are the better you'll become at it, because you'll strengthen those, chords and stuff. The better you become at feeling your emotions, the quicker you'll be able to work through them. An emotion only lasts 90 seconds. So if you can breathe through that emotion and stop replaying the situations in your head and getting lost in those things, you're going to be able to move through those, and you'll end up benefiting for it in the end, because a lot of things are going to come your way in life. So feel it out. Try not to teeter yourself away from it, even if it's painful. Sit with it, and then go from there. But that's the biggest piece of advice I could probably give. Just feel yourself out, and don't, try not to mask who you are, because chances are someone else is going through it too and needs to hear what you have to say about it.
I love that. Love that. Well, honey, thank you again for taking some time out of your evening to hang out and chat with me a little bit about you, your life, and your career. For those listening, please check out Honey on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. She just released a single, Stable, that came out on July 16th. And she's got a bunch of new music coming out in the fall as well. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Also, please don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And with that, we will see you next week.
No flex, ego, keep it simple. Everybody knows it, I'm stable. Don't need labels, I'm capable. Everybody knows it, I'm stable. Now I'm who I wanna be. Used to be a village, now I'm a city.